When you hear the name Mickey Mantle, what do you think of? You think of the Yankees. You think of center field. You think of World Series championships. You think of the iconic number 7. What do I think of when I think of Mickey Mantle? My boyhood idol. The reason why I became a Yankee fan. Well, we have 2 special guests tonight that got to call him Dad. We're going to welcome in Danny and David Mantle. Gentlemen, thank you for joining us. Danny, last time Yankee fans saw you and your brother was in 2016. The Yankees had a Mickey Mantle night. It was in honor of his Triple Crown season. 2016 represented the 60th anniversary of his Triple Crown season, 1956. Danny, when you're on the field wearing his uniform, number 7, throwing out the first pitch, what's going through your mind?
Well, just the honor of being there, number one, and, they had done it was a bobblehead night. And so it was just a very special night because they had created a bobblehead out of a photo where Dad had been wearing the crown, the Triple Crown crown, and he had the 3 bats. It's the iconic picture. Everybody's seen it. And so they did a great job with the bobblehead. So I just being there and seeing, because we understood that people had lined up since like 10 o'clock in the morning or something. So it was just a very good feeling to see that, the fans were still very supportive of Mickey Mantle.
David, well, I'm going to ask you what was going through your mind. First thing I want to say is not to put you on the spot, but I got to mention you did bounce the opening pitch there.
See, that's what was on my mind is don't bounce it. And what did I do? I bounced it for Danny.
Well, maybe you were working on your splitter, 2016. Yeah, Tanaka was on the team already, so maybe were you working on your splitter?
That or a sinker.
David, well, first thing I want to say, when people look at you, you look like your dad a lot.
Thank you.
And when you heard the opening, I said, what do you think of when you think of Mickey Mantle? Well, one thing that people think about is the greatest switch hitter in the history of the game. You're wearing number 7 on your back, 2016, 60th anniversary of that great season. What were you thinking?
Well, besides getting the hives, I got very nervous, and I just knew that, and I think that's what added more to maybe me bouncing it. It's just, you get in there and, you're wanting to make Dad proud, not just, me proud, but I wanted to make Dad proud. And then, here I ended up doing that, but, it's ended up being kind of a joke now. So, I got used to it. And, but I was thinking that, my hair is starting to stand up now. It's just that here I'm standing out, almost on the mound at Yankee Stadium amongst all those fans and Yankee fans. And it was just the feeling of having the honor of being out there to do that. And, you just keep thinking that, you don't want to mess up. And, of course, it ended up different, but it was still a great honor. But it just, you wanted to, do right by Dad.
And you did. When you're out there, David, I'll stick with you for a second. Would you like to be back at Yankee Stadium more often, maybe for some old timers games? Or
I would love for that to happen. I really don't understand it, but I would love for that to happen. I know it hasn't happened, and it's not that we can't go. It's just that some reason, it's just that, because they have the wives and stuff, it would be just great that if we were invited too.
As a Yankee fan, I'm gonna root for that to happen
Well, thank
because
you.
we're just seeing your face puts a smile on my face. It just reminds me of your dad, and it just brings me back to those days. And I'm going to go back to Danny for a second. We mentioned it in passing, but now I'd like for you to drill down a little bit, Danny. Statistically, that season, my goodness, take us through it a little bit statistically.
Well, in '56, obviously the Triple Crown is probably one of the best awards that a person can win for the offense, right? And
Sure.
he, Dad had always said, he had like 5 pretty decent years, but they weren't what he had been. When he first came up, he was supposed to be Ruth, Gehrig, and DiMaggio, and even though he hit 300 a few times during those first few years, and he just wasn't there. But, he always liked to say that it just took him 5 years to get to what they said he could do, and that was the first of his MVPs too. So, he got the MVP plus the Triple Crown that year. And he loved it because he did hit the 52 homers, and that was the first time he'd gone over 50 homers, and so that was a big thrill for him because he loved hitting home runs.
Well, Danny, let me just to expand on that point that you just made. Not only was it the first time that he hit 50 home runs in his illustrious career, but that was the first time in the history of baseball, and no one's ever done it, no one did it before or after, that they won the Triple Crown, and it included 50 or more home runs. So
Right.
he has 2 stats that that keep him that stand alone. He was the only player and is the only player on that illustrious short list of great ball players that had a Triple Crown with 50 home runs or more, and he's the only switch hitter that ever did it, that ever won the Triple Crown.
Exactly. Yeah. And like I said, Dad just loved hitting home runs. Someone had asked him once, do you ever go to the plate, wanting to hit a home run? And he said, sure, every time.
In 1951, in his first season, gets to the World Series. Joe DiMaggio's playing center. He's playing right field. During the regular season, Casey Stengel had an agreement with the outfielders, and it was basically very simple. Mickey, get to anything when it comes to a ball in the gap in right center, anything that you can get to it. Now, Willie Mays hits a ball in the gap, right center, in the World Series, and take it from there, David, if you can.
Joe D, I think had a bad foot or something. And so Dad was there to, cover Joe D. And so a ball was kind of hitting to the gap. And so, Dad had those legs, and he just took off after it. And Joe D called him off. I'm not saying anything bad, but some people think that maybe Joe D called him off a little too late. And so, but when Dad went to stop, he hit that drainage hole, and just by circumstance, his cleats got caught in it. And then, just all of his weight from him trying to stop went right on that knee, and it just popped. And I can remember Yogi saying that you could hear it in the dugout, that the injury.
After the injury, they go to Lenox Hill Hospital. When we just said they carried him on a stretcher. If you can, pick up the story from there when they get out of a cab in front of Lenox Hill Hospital.
Well, my dad, I'm not sure that his dad even knew he was sick yet, meaning my grandpa. And they both had got out of the cab. Well, Dad slid over to put his arm around his dad, to get out of the cab. Well, when he did, his dad just keeled over on the sidewalk. And my dad was like, this is my man, because his dad was a pretty big guy. And always was strong. You know, he worked in the mines and all that. And so when he fell over, I guess they took him in on a stretcher as well with Dad. So they put him in the same room there to watch, and they watched that World Series together in hospital beds. And so, I mean, that had to just be so dramatic for my dad. You know, he had such a close relationship with his father that, you know, that was just earth shattering to him.
When you think about his career, when you think about what he went through, not only was that an injury that in many cases would have been considered a career-ending injury before he even got started, now a 19-year-old kid realizes that his dad is sick.
You know, now that you mention that too, though, thinking back, you know, that might have ended a lot of players' careers. But, you know, with Dad, you know, being with his father and all that stuff, I think that reinforced what his dad said to him when he went down to it, you know, got him in Kansas City and said, you know, if I thought I raised a man, and, you know, if you're not going to be a man, then come back with me and, you know, work in the coal mines. I mean, not the coal mines, but the lead and zinc mines. And by doing that, I think that made my dad, it put him in shock, I believe.